It's the first day of fall, and true crime does not take a day off. Welcome once again to Bethea'S Byte Reloaded, the drama-free true crime destination. So good to have you aboard. I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw, and we are in the thick of a lot we got to cover. A lot. So, settle in. If you haven't eaten yet, go on and get yourself a bite to eat because we may be here for a bit. First off, I want to thank you all. And I've got a brand new headset, so I'll sound a little bit better than what I normally do. And I also want to send a shout out to all of my subscribers, all 717, I believe. Let me look at my phone because I can't dip over to my other tab real quick. 716. Anyway, 716 subscribers. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. I love you guys. Again, I've said it many times over. You are the reason that Bethea'S Byte Reloaded is reloaded and runs so well. So thank you. Thank you for joining me. If there's something you liked about this video tonight, I want you to make sure you like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment here or in the chat or in the community section. I'd love to hear from you. That's the free way to help out. If you wanna help me out financially, you wanna tip your host. There's three ways to do it. You got PayPal. PayPal.me/EKB316, Cash App $EKB316, or Venmo EB the Last Outlaw. Nothing obligated, always appreciated. I appreciate all the help I can get. Alright, let's get that house cleaning done. If you want to join in, the live panel is open. I've pinned the link in the in your YouTube chat, so all you gotta do is click on there. The link's there, and come on aboard. I love to bounce ideas and theories off you guys. To everybody that's in the chat, all the comments, the statements, and views are all speculation, deduction, theory, and opinion until we have some kind of evidence saying otherwise. There will be no racism, homophobia, attacks on a person's or person's dialect, weight, looks, all that other stuff. No politics or religion. We want to remain respectful, okay? Yes, your opinions are welcome here. Attacks on others are not. So if you don't like an opinion, all you gotta do is click off to the side. There's three dots. Click that. Click on that. Click on the name. Hit block, and you're good to go. You'll never have to hear from that person again. Alright? Here's what you'll be seeing a good portion for tonight. First, this trigger warning. I want to help you protect your mental health, your emotional health, all that good stuff. So if you see this, that means it's gonna be something off the wall. And viewer discretion is strongly advised. And if I have a video to show, which will likely happen, I will have this up all throughout. So I'm covered, they're covered, and I don't get in trouble for it. All right. As always, I get all my information from the best reputable source, the original True Crime Obsession, Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Alright. I'll get to how to get in contact with me later. Alright. Now that we're all settled in, let's get going. First story of the evening. It's an update on Bryan Kohberger. Kohberger has now been booked into Ada County Jail after the trial has been moved. Accused quadruple murderer Bryan Kohberger was transported to the Ada County Jail on last Sunday, according to jail records. Kohberger was transferred from Latah County after a September 12th ruling reassigned his case to Judge Stephen Hippler in Ada County. The case was reassigned after Judge John Judge granted the defense motion to move his trial from Latah County. Now note this, Ada County is where Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell stood trial after their cases were moved from Fremont County. Kohberger is charged with the brutal murders of Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Kaylee Gonsalves at their rental home near the University of Idaho. 6 weeks after they were stabbed to death, Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania. His trial is currently scheduled for June 2025. Authorities told Script News Boise that Kohberger will be housed by himself due to safety within the facility for both inmates and employees. His length of stay is temporary because he's being held for court and because ACSO did not make an arrest or bring forth charges. Captain Ryan Jensen released the following statement, quote, "Several factors were considered in planning and preparing for Bryan Kohberger's move to the Ada County Jail. First and foremost was wanting to do it in the safest and most efficient way. Thanks to a wonderful partnership with the Idaho State Police, we were able to use their aircraft just because it just simply made the most sense given the distance of travel and complications that may have come up using ground transportation." Okay, here's my take. First of all, they moved his case in the same courtroom that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell stood trial. That's not a good sign. That's not a good omen. Why not? Why isn't it? Look at the results from those two standing trial. Lori Vallow Daybell not only is doing life behind prison bars there, but she has another trial coming up in Arizona. And as for Chad Daybell, one of my favorite Undertaker promos come to mind from Mr. Daybell. And if Bryan Kohberger isn't careful, he may be hearing the same words. "When the Reaper calls your name," I won't finish it here. I'll save that for a couple of defense I got to deal with later. Right now, with Kohberger going to the Ada County Jail, I don't see this as a good omen for him at all. In fact, June 2025, he can delay this thing all he wants to that date, but I don't think it's going to end well for him at all. Alright, next up. Nope, I'm saving that for last. Alright. Okay. Next up, investigators have released a new composite sketch of Asian Doe, a victim found on Gilgo Beach who remains unidentified. This is another possible victim of the so-called Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann. So, I am going to first I am first going to, as I promised earlier, I am going to put up this trigger warning. Alright. And now I am going to put up the copyright disclaimer and prepare this video. And at this point, the next voice you will hear will be that of Court TV's Julie Grant on this development.
We want to take you to New York right now, where District Attorney Ray Tierney, a Suffolk County District Attorney, is holding a press conference to announce some brand new developments in the Gilgo Beach homicide investigations, specifically about one of the victims who's been described only as Asian Doe. We know that Rex Heuermann is currently charged with murder in the deaths of 6 women over the past 3 decades. He has pleaded not guilty in all of those cases. He is not charged with the death of Asian Doe at this time. Let's go in together now where Ray Tierney is speaking to the public.
Forensic reconstruction images of Asian Doe, which were provided by NCMEC, descriptions of the clothing of the victim, which he was wearing at the time of death, a picture of the various clothing labels of the clothes that were worn, new genealogical data, as well as information as to the victim's age, height, and gender identity information. Now, with regard to the initial investigation in this case, the remains of Asian Doe were discovered on April 4th, 2011. They were found, the skeletal remains were found on Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach in New York. I believe found in between, just closest to Megan Waterman. The initial examination revealed the following. The victim was a biological male of Asian descent. The victim was between the ages of 17 and 23. So there he was a teenager or very young adult when the murder occurred, and he was about 5'6" tall, give or take a couple of inches either way. Unfortunately, this victim suffered a violent death. The cause of death was homicide by blunt force trauma. We know the death occurred during or prior to 2006. And that those remains were on Ocean Beach for at least 5 years before being discovered in 2011. So the actual murder occurred based on the forensic examination of the remains in 2006 or earlier. Some of this information is being released for the first time, specifically the descriptions of the clothes that Asian Doe was wearing at the time of death, and that although Asian Doe is a biological male, Asian Doe was wearing exclusively women's clothing. He was wearing a Chrysanthemum brand blue-ribbed short-sleeved shirt with a crew neck, size large. He was wearing a Raffaello brand shirt, size 10, and he was wearing a pair of women's pants and a bra, both by the brand Bill Blass. And with regard to the forensic reconstruction images, the task force was able to work with a National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, and a forensic artist examined the victim's skull to create the facial reconstructions that you see here. And those reconstructions depict what the victim may have looked like prior to their disappearance and murder. We have 2 pictures of a person with short hair, one head on and one in profile. And we have a third picture of an individual with long hair. Because the victim was wearing exclusively women's clothing at the time of death, it is possible that they identified as a woman or were known by others as being a woman. The Gilgo Beach Task Force also utilized genetic genealogy to learn more about this victim's specific ethnicity. It was previously known that this victim was of Asian descent. However, now we know that it is a strong likelihood that the victim is of Southern Chinese descent, Han Chinese descent, and Han Chinese is one of the 56 officially recognized ethnicities in the People's Republic of China. This is a significant development because unfortunately South Asia is underrepresented in our genealogy databases, meaning there are not a lot of Asian profiles in the database. Therefore, investigative genetic genealogy in this instance is a challenge. It's a challenge to identify this victim, and so far it has proved to be difficult and has provided few leads. Hence, the purpose for us being here today. We're looking for the media's assistance, and we're looking for the public's assistance in helping us provide information on this victim to get this victim's name back. I'll just come over. These are the pictures of the individual. We have a picture of Asian doe with short as they would appear with short hair, and a picture of Asian doe as they would appear with longer hair. Now, with regard to outreach to the community, again, we've leaned on all our partners as we always do, but particularly in this instance, the New York City Police Department and the state troopers. We've asked for the NYPD's assistance in translating this flyer into Mandarin, into Cantonese, into Thai, and into Bahasa, which is an Indonesian language. And the NYPD will further assist in distributing flyers on the ground in the Asian communities across New York City. And again, as we know, there's a significant Asian population in New York City, so we thank them for their help. We've invited several Asian media outlets to be present here in the hopes that they can reach the Asian community directly and provide this information to those communities. Regarding our goals for doing this is a call to action. We want to enlist the public's help in trying to identify Asian doe. With regard to the translations, we hope that the public and the Asian media outlets will further assist us in translating and disseminating this information into additional Asian dialects, which will further aid in the process of identification. Again, this person had a name, this person had family, this person had friends. We're reaching out to anyone who might have known this individual to help us with that identification. Again, I would just add with regard to DNA databases, those who would like to help identify Asian doe or any other victim or missing persons in the Asian or any other community to help, you can upload your DNA to Family Tree DNA and into Jetmatch Pro and opt into law enforcement matching. Contrary to popular opinion, law enforcement doesn't have access to all DNA databases, and this identification, this IgG technology that we use, as you can see, we don't just utilize it to identify suspects. We also use it to identify victims and to provide closure to the families of missing victims. If you really want to help, please consider uploading your DNA profile into those two commercial databases, which allow law enforcement to access that information, but only with the consent of the consumer. Now, third, we ask that if you were around in the late 90s and early 2000s, think about the people you associated with. Think about the people you know. Did anyone of Asian descent go missing? We believe Asian doe may have been working as a sex worker around the time of their disappearance prior to 2006. We believe that they spent some time in New York City prior to their death. And we want to urge the public, don't discount someone just because you know them to be from somewhere outside of New York City. As we know, people often come to New York City for a myriad of reasons. Prior to so that's what we're asking again. With the help of the media, let's get these photos out, let's get this information out, and let's identify Asian Doe. Crime Stoppers is offering a $2,500 reward for information leading to the identification of Asian Doe. Anyone with information regarding this case or the identification of the victim is asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-220-TIPS, T-I-P-S, or via email or the mobile app on the flyer. You can do so in your native language. Translation services are available, so if you have difficulty with the English language, but you have information, provide it to us in your native language, and we will translate it. Again, please share this information far and wide, and let's help get this victim identified and give this victim their name back. Prior to taking questions, I'm going to turn it over to the New York State Police. We have, as I've said, we've had Lieutenant Richard St. Preux, and he is going to introduce the Mandarin translator. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Okay, the Mandarin translator being brought in next. If you're just now joining us, this is an update from the Suffolk County, New York District Attorney's Office. Ray Tierney, the DA, leading this presser, essentially asking for the public's help in identifying one of the victims known only up to this point as Asian Doe. They've been able to ascertain some things by analyzing this person's skeletal remains. They believe the person was somewhere between the ages of 17 and 23, a biological male, about 5'6", but wearing women's clothing at the time of his death. He's believed to have been a sex worker. Investigators also believe Asian Doe suffered a very violent death that occurred prior to 2006. They believe that this victim is of Southern Chinese descent, and the victim's body was found along Ocean Parkway in April of 2011. Now, let's go back in. The DA is going to be taking some questions from the public. They're hoping that with more information added to this victim description, that perhaps somebody will recognize who this person is.
So, we have a bail document which details some of the internet searches done by the defendant, and some did contain searches using similar terms that we just described. Anything else? So yeah, it's a violent death, unforced trauma, which led to the individual's death. So this was a violent assault resulting in the defendant's death.
District Attorney, is there anybody, like a forensic scientist, or somebody to speak to the difficulty of bringing this image?
No, we don't have anyone there. But, basically what it is the forensic anthropologists, forensic artists, they start at the skull, and then using the characteristics of the skull, they essentially create, and using their training, of course, they create the diagram of the individual. So we believe this is the most accurate possible depiction of the victim.
And the language
that was the language that the trooper. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Were there any?
Yes.
Was there DNA reserved at the crime scene prior to 2006? That's been years that the revolution.
Yeah.
Is there DNA to work with at the time?
I think you never say never. We've seen that the way that the DNA technology has evolved. So we do have DNA, and so we're working with it.
Were there similar?
I'll get to you in a second.
Dave, how rare is it for somebody not to be identified for such a long period of time that no one has come forward and said they think it is your career? How rare is it?
It's not unheard of, especially when you're talking about a crime of this nature. When you're talking about a community that's an immigrant community that tends to be insular. So again, we think a lot of times, and again, this person we believe was brought from outside the jurisdiction into the jurisdiction. So when you combine all those things, it's not that unusual. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we send out the information far and wide, not just to Suffolk County, not just to New York, but across the country and across the world. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bryan.
Were there any similarities in the way that this body was disposed of with those that were left nearby? And I mean, are you considering Rex Heuermann a suspect in this case?
So if you look at where it was situated, I think it was about 300 or so feet from Megan Waterman in that same stretch of Parkway. So it was between Megan Waterman and Jessica Taylor. And as we've said all along, each one of these these victims, it's a separate crime scene. Start from that separate crime scene and you work your way up, which we're doing. And it's all nice to speculate, but basically it doesn't matter until you bring charges. We're certainly not at that stage. I think probably what you're referencing is specifically with regard to the Gilgo 4. Those were uniquely, they were almost identical, and they're unique from the other bodies. There's always evidence at the scene, and we're analyzing that evidence, and if it bears fruit and results in charges, we'll talk about it at that time.
Mr. Chairman, when you talk about how this was found where clothing were and you talk about the evidence before, was there any material, burlap, anything else, a sheet, a pillowcase, anything at all that was found?
I'm not entirely certain. I know specifically that this victim was clad in the clothes that we've described.
All right, we're going to hit the pause button right here. So essentially, there is no definitive answer as to who this victim is, but investigators seem to be encouraged by some bits of information they've been able to ascertain through the various components of their investigation. And they're hoping that by doing this today, the public will think long and hard about who it could be. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we'll get you back into that press conference live.
And as they hit the pause button on this, I'll do the same thing. And right now, according to according to the article in question, they did say that they don't know whether they would consider Rex Heuermann a suspect or not. I want to give you a shot of the alleged victim. So if you'll just bear with me for just a moment, we'll get back to that press conference in just a bit. All right. Get this adjusted here. There you go. Agent Doe. And okay, there's the this is just two of the pictures that the Suffolk County Police Department have, the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department has on this possible victim of the Long Island serial killer. They don't know whether to have him as the excuse me. They don't know whether to consider him a suspect or not. But right now, this is Agent Doe. When we get the identity of who this person is, we'll let you know. In the meantime, we're gonna get you back to the press conference.
Monday.
$17.13.
Beach murders investigation. We know there's been a lot of evidence, particularly on a victim known only as Asian Doe, a victim whose skeletonized remains were found on Ocean Parkway in 2011, but this person has believed to have suffered a very violent death in the year 2006. A biological male dressed in women's clothing, about 5'6", believed to be of Southern Chinese descent. Let's go back in now and hear more from the DA.
I don't know what that means. We start from our victim. We start from our crime scene. We work our way out, and we don't talk about it until we're able to charge them.
So to clarify, you said you're testing other evidence from the scene. Is there other physical evidence suggesting, somebody else linking somebody else to that scene other than the victim?
There's always physical evidence, and you work through the physical evidence. You utilize the various modalities. Those modalities are changing, evolving, so it's a continuing process. And until that process is complete, you don't discuss it. So we're not at that stage where we're prepared to discuss it, but there's always a myriad of physical evidence at any scene. It's just whether or not it's relevant or not, or it's able to be investigated.
Would you have to know the identity of this person to bring charges against somebody? In other words, if you found out strong evidence of a suspect in this case was at the scene and you still don't know who this person is, could you charge somebody?
Yes. He was not wrapped up in red. Nope.
And what about the searches for Gordon? Did any searches correlate to this victim?
Well, I would just ask that you look at the Kadel document, because we have a number of searches with regard to searches that could arguably be related to this victim, as well as the Gilgo Beach investigation and the discovery of bodies on Gilgo Beach. Sure.
It's more difficult to identify someone if they are male, identify as
well, it's the public, and so I think when you talk about immigrant communities from outside of Suffolk County and a body found inside Suffolk County in general, you wouldn't be all that surprised in having difficulty to identify this particular victim, and then there are all those other factors as well. So not completely unsurprising that we've not been able to identify the victim, but the most important thing is that we identify that victim regardless of the outcome of any criminal case, just to provide that victim and their family with, give the victim his or her name back and provide the family with closure.
You said that you believe this person may have spent time in New York City before their death. What is that belief based on?
It's based upon our investigation, which I'm not going to get into.
Why now? Why are there because the forensic anthropologist just gave these renderings and had them for a while?
Yeah, these were done through NCMEC, and that was a a fairly involved process. We really appreciate their assistance. Obviously, it's a painstaking process, and it took some time. So, once we had the information available, and also the DNA, the specific genealogy of DNA, we wanted to provide it to the public because we think it'll help the investigation and help to identify this. Okay. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Okay, so there we have it. That concludes this morning's update from Suffolk County. I want to bring in our guest, a legal analyst now, I should say law enforcement analyst, somebody who worked and served in Nassau County for many, many years. He was a commander there of the Nassau County Police K-9 unit, Lieutenant Mike Gould with us. Lieutenant, tell us what you make of this update today and the information. What, if anything, are you thinking about after this conference concluded?
Yeah, Julie. So this isn't surprising to me at all. So for the viewers that don't know this particular area, Gilgo Beach is a barrier beach next to Jones Beach. Maybe people know it that way. But it's one lane in, one lane out. It's a road. And it's 10 miles east of Kennedy Airport. So this has been, the marshlands around Kennedy Airport has been a dumping ground for bodies. It's a very convenient place considering the population of New York City. There's not many places to go quickly and be able to dispose of bodies. So this Barrier Beach Ocean Parkway, ironically, Julie, I used to train our canines down there because it was desolate, and we can train our rescue dogs, our search dogs, as well as cadaver dogs because of its isolation and proximity to New York City. Queens has a large Asian population. Back in the day when this victim would have been murdered, Asian sex trafficking was very, very popular, maybe still is now. So this doesn't surprise me. Actually, what surprises me is that more bodies unrelated to Rex Heuermann is not being discovered, and I think they will because they work with the cadaver dogs. That's where we trained them down there. So we're always out there looking for. That's exactly where I used to work with the dogs.
Sure, I knew you know so much about this this case, this wide investigation. Lieutenant, you mentioned something with respect to Rex Heuermann. So we know he's got 6 homicide charges pending right now. Tell me, when we think about the number of victims there, many people wondering, kind of the million-dollar question is there one killer at work or multiple killers? And as you noted, this is a place where if one's going to hide a body, as you know, it's desolate, it's remote, it's a place that would be ripe for covering up a crime like that. What's your professional opinion, Lieutenant? Do you think we have more than one killer at work here?
Yeah, well, the ones that are being charged by Heuermann, they're going to have evidence to support it. But I think they actually recovered a child out there at one point, a baby. I don't recall all of the. I've been a little out of the loop on it.
You're correct.
But yeah, it's been a dumping ground, so I don't think he's going to be related to that. So yeah, there's whether they're going to be able to solve these things. This is going to be difficult to find this particular Asian Joe. It's going to be a difficult test. Whenever he was murdered. You know, there's not going to be a lot of DNA to connect them with, so it's going to be a stretch. It's great that they're putting it out there. Somebody somewhere might recognize him and put this in some context. But yeah, no, as I said, I think there'll be more bodies found, personally, or at least parts of bodies. And yeah, organized crime has been using the marshlands around Kennedy Airport forever to dispose of bodies.
Lieutenant, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges these investigators are facing now, trying to, identify victims and then potentially connect them, with the killer for prosecution? What do you think some of the biggest hindrances are at this point?
Sure. Physical evidence. If the physical evidence are going to deteriorate, these bodies have been out there for a long time. Don't forget, this whole Gilgo Beach killing has been going on for decades. It's kind of ironic, though. On Long Island, there was conspiracy theories. There were podcasts going on forever. This was right in Rex Heuermann, literally in his backyard. He was 5 miles from Barrier Beach if he crossed the water. So, and nobody had him on the radar scale. radar screen. So fortunately, the DNA evidence, they retrieved his Heuermann's DNA. They had some of the victims' DNA, but it's going to be challenging. I'm going to be interested in when this thing starts to go, when the trial begins, to see exactly. Mike Brown is a great attorney, so Rex Heuermann, if he has any, that's one thing he has going for him, is a great attorney. I don't know where this is going to end up. He's certainly involved. I don't know for everybody that's going to be found there if he's going to be connected to that.
Lieutenant, I am in agreement with you. The best thing Rex Heuermann has going for him is Michael J. Brown, his counsel. So if anybody's up for the task, and we know he is. I'm curious, with Gilgo Beach, for anybody who's never been there, like personally, I've never been, wouldn't really know what it looks like. Do you see any people socializing? Is it a place to go or not really, because of the way it's constructed? Like you said, it's a barrier beach. Do you see anybody going to have a day in the sand?
Yeah, no, recreationally during the summer, yeah, it's a very popular beach, one of the biggest beaches on Long Island. However, in the winter months and at nighttime, there's very little light. So you could, and this road is one road, you could see 5 miles, and you could see headlights coming at you. So there's not a lot of intersecting streets. So you could just sit there. If you were going to do something nefarious, you could sit there with your headlights out and you could see a car coming from 5 miles away. That's how desolate it is. But yeah, it's a barrier beach. In the summertime, there's a lot of recreational stuff. But when the sun goes down and there's no lights, there's a lot of room for, as I said, nefarious activities, and you're almost undetectable because of this one-lane road and it's marshland, sand. So yeah, no, it's ripe for dumping bodies.
Yeah, I can only imagine. This is really helpful. It's like you're taking us there. Appreciate it, Lieutenant. It was nice. We had some videos we showed with the people there. Like you said, in the summertime can be really enjoyable, but look out, don't go there at night.
One second longer. I'm getting myself back into the shot here, and let me get a quick check in the chat real quick. Justice Jane, how you doing, Justice Jane? Good to have you aboard. Or we're talking about Asian Doe, a possible victim of the Long Island serial killer, the possible Gilgo Beach possible victim of Gilgo Beach serial killings, and there's a lot of what we know and a lot of the only and one thing we don't know. Now, as you can see on your screen where my cursor is this is two of the composite drawings of Asian Doe. We know that he might be that he was born biologically male. 1. 2. We know that he may be of Chinese descent. And 3. We know that he may have been a sex worker. The only thing we don't know, as you can tell right now, is the identification of Asian Doe. But I say the same thing as I always say when it comes to missing persons cases. Oh wow! Hi Danielle. Good to have you on board as well. Anyway, when it comes to this, I say the same thing every time, no matter whether it's a missing person or even a possible victim in this. Anybody in that Suffolk County, Gilgo Beach area, if you have any information on Asian Doe, please, whatever you do, get in contact with your local authorities. And as always, if you see something, say something. That way we can do something. All right. Every little bit of information helps out. Now the next story is going to be coming right out of my neck of the woods. 27-year-old Bryce Schubert is accused in the death of Oregon nurse 32-year-old Melissa Jubin, and authorities said that they happen to be neighbors. Here's the deal. A neighbor of an Oregon nurse who was found dead just days after her wedding is charged with second-degree murder, kidnapping, and abuse of a corpse. 27-year-old Bryce Schubert is accused of the death of 32-year-old Melissa Jubin. Police previously said they had arrested Schubert, but have not released details about how they believe he was connected to the case. Authorities entered Jubin's name as a missing person in the National Law Enforcement databases on September 4th after she missed her nursing shift at Providence St. Vincent Hospital in Portland. Police failed to find her when they conducted a welfare check at her apartment in the Portland suburb of Beaverton. Schubert's public defender, Gregg, said his client tried to plead not guilty, but that the Washington County Circuit Judge Elizabeth Lemoyne said she could not accept it. Court rules do not allow defendants to enter felony pleas before they are indicted by a grand jury. That's according to both the Oregonian and Oregon Live. Neither Scholl, the nonprofit agency Metropolitan Defender, nor spokespeople for Washington County and its district attorney's office immediately responded to email questions and voicemail seeking comment. This comes to a shock to us all, and she is mourned by her co-workers, Providence said in a statement. Jubin had just married her partner, Bryan Lantero, in Hawaii in late August. That's according to KHON TV. Her mother-in-law told the station that the newlyweds returned to the United States mainland on September 1st and enjoyed the Labor Day holiday before Jubin returned to work on Tuesday. And Lantero, an active-duty U.S. Navy member, reported for work in Washington State. Police said, excuse me. Police said their investigation links Schubert to Jubin's disappearance and that her remains had been found. A statement said authorities were not providing further details to protect the ongoing investigation. Our heartfelt condolences go out to the family, friends, and colleagues of Melissa during this incredibly difficult time. We stand with our community in mourning and offer our full support to all those impacted by this devastating loss. And that's a statement from the Oregon Nurses Association. Now, guys, you know me. Cases like this, the first thing out of my mouth is, I want justice for that victim. And I want justice for Melissa Jubin. Period. So I'm not just gonna jump right up and down and say this guy's guilty, this guy deserves blah 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 blah. I'm gonna wait until I hear all the testimony. I'm gonna wait until all the evidence is gathered. I'm gonna wait and wait and wait until we know for sure this guy is guilty, or he decides to actually go ahead and take a plea deal. And you know how I feel about those. Alright. We are going to move onward. In court filings, prosecutors have detailed each of the defendants' alleged role in the murders of Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelley. Prosecutors say 5 people charged with murdering 2 women because of a custody dispute meticulously planned the crime before carrying it out. Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelley, who you see on the right side of your screen, disappeared while traveling to pick up Butler's children for visitation. Kelley was married to a minister in Indianola, Nebraska, and was authorized to supervise Butler's visits. Butler and Kelley's bodies were found inside a freezer buried on a property rented by one of the suspects in the case. Tiffany Adams, the grandmother of Butler's children, is one of the people charged in the case, along with Cole and Cora Twombly, Paul Grice, and Tad Callum. Prosecutors have filed a motion asking for the cases of all 5 defendants to be combined for an upcoming preliminary hearing. The motion, reviewed by Court TV, details each defendant's alleged role in the conspiracy, which allegedly went according to plan. Prosecutors say Adams hated and despised Butler and wanted her dead, and was responsible for all the purchases the group needed. She is accused of buying burner phones for the group, stun devices, yellow straps that were found placed around freezers and the bodies were burned in, and even pants Cullum wore the day of the murders. Cullum is accused of digging the hole at the burial site with skid steers the day before the murders, and is the person who allegedly stabbed Kelley to death. Grice is accused of murdering Butler the same way. After killing the women, the men allegedly drove the bodies to the burial site, where they buried them along with the clothes that both men were wearing, the knife used to kill Butler, and a stun device. Prosecutors say the victim's DNA was on their assailant's clothing. Cora and Cole Twombly are accused of acting as lookouts on the day of the murder and allegedly confided in their 16-year-old daughter in the hope of receiving an alibi for the morning of the murders. Prosecutors argued that not only should the cases be combined for the sake of efficiency, but also, if all 5 defendants had separate preliminary hearings and trials, the Twombly's teen daughter would have to travel to Oklahoma to testify 10 times, saying such a result is unconscionable. Investigators have said the murders were motivated by Adams' hatred for Butler amid an ongoing custody battle. Butler had with Adams' son 4 of their children. All 5 are allegedly part of an anti-government group with a religious affiliation known as God's Misfits, and had regular meetings at the Twombly's home. All 5 defendants are due in court. We're due in court on Wednesday for a motions hearing. First of all, let me say this. Just reading that was absolutely disgusting. Let alone using my imagination to actually see those 5 monsters, and I can call them that, those 5 monsters carrying out such a heinous act. Honestly, I agree with the prosecutor. Try all 5 at one time. Let the jury, every court watcher, the judge, let them all see how all of them tie together. That way, when the jury verdict is handed down, instead of guilty, then wait, guilty, then wait, it will be it'll be Tiffany Adams, guilty. Cole Twombly, guilty. Cora Twombly, guilty. Paul Grice, guilty. And Tad Cullum, guilty. All of them. One shot. Then they can all spend the rest of their lives behind bars. But hey, that's just my opinion. We are going to take you right to the courthouse right now, where there was where a verdict has been handed in the cyclist road rage trial. Florida versus Kadel Piedrahita. Piedrahita was charged with second-degree murder in the shooting death of Alexis Palencia. So I'm going to first set the link up. Booyah. I am going to now pull up I'm going to bring up the copyright disclaimer. I am going to mute everything. I'm going to mute it. I'm going to mute my mic. No, let me try this again before I do anything. I'm going to mute the mic. I'm going to mute the sound here, and I'm going to take myself out of the shot. So the only thing you'll be hearing is first Judge Ashley Wilcott of Court TV, and then we take you right to the courtroom where the verdict is handed in for Kadel Piedrahita. Let's go.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott in for Michael Ayala. Breaking news. I'm a little surprised, but 3 hours, 17 minutes in, we have a verdict. This is in the Florida case of Kadel Piedrahita. The case we've been bringing you, we know there is a live pick. He's at the defense table. His attorneys are there. Not very long deliberating, 3 hours, 17 minutes. This is the one in which he said it was self-defense. He claims that Alexis Palencia, who is the victim in the case, had a gun and that he was in fear of his life and his son's life when he shot Alexis in self-defense. He faces 2 charges, second-degree murder and aggravated assault against Cesar Sosa, because he also did allegedly point the gun at him and threaten him. So those are the 2 charges that he faces. Again, in the state of Florida, you see all the deputies lining up behind him. That is typical when there's a verdict. Let's see if we're able to hear and go inside the courtroom.
So she did you call who you promised you were going to?
I texted.
Okay.
I texted you.
Can I put this in the book? All right, I'm told the jury has a verdict. Who's our interpreter? Okay, she's been sworn in? Swear her in, please. It's okay. Just make sure she's sworn in.
Good afternoon. You swear that you will truly and willfully translate from Spanish to English and English to Spanish, and you have the ability to do so. Yes, I do. Can you push your sword to have the interpreter for the right now?
Okay. Be seated, everyone, please. All right, this is the state of Florida versus Kadel Piedrahita, case number F19-15954. I am told the jury has a verdict. State is ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Defense?
Yes, sir.
All right, bring the jury in, please.
Yes, sir.
seated, everyone. State, you can see the presence of our jurors.
Yes, sir.
About the defense.
Yes, Judge.
Publish it.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then poll the jurors too.
Yes, Your Honor. In the Circuit Court of the 11th Judicial Circuit in the Fort Miami-Dade County, Florida, case number F19-15954, Judge Alberto Milian, State of Florida versus Kadel Piedrahita, verdict form. We the jury find as follows as to count 1 of the charge. The defendant is guilty of second-degree murder. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally discharge a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, and as a result of discharging the firearm, was the death caused to Alexis Valencia? Yes. Did the state prove beyond reasonable doubt that Alexis Valencia died as a direct result of second-degree murder? Yes. We the jury find as follows as to count 2 of the charge. The defendant is guilty of aggravated assault with a firearm. So say we all, this 16th day of September 2024, Miami-Dade County. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard me read the verdict. As I call your name, if this is your verdict, answer yes. If this is not your
there you have it. Only thing you're missing is the jury being polled. Kadel Piedrahita, guilty of second-degree murder and aggravated assault with a firearm for threatening Cesar Sosa during the incident on August 14th of 2019. We'll have to find out exactly when the sentencing day will be, but the evidence was overwhelming in my opinion. And even went ahead and testified in his own defense, saying that authorities had asked why he fired the gun, and he told them that he was attacked by 3 people and that the person had a weapon. If that was really the case, then he'd be on the other side of this thing. But que sera? Now we wait to find out what is his punishment for that murder. Oh, and speaking of murder cases, Donna Adelson, her trial is being continued. Donna Adelson's murder trial is continued. She's accused in the death of FSU law professor Dan Markle. A new trial date has not been set, but let me get into why her case is being continued. And if my mouse pad will cooperate with me. I'll do better than that. I'll do a lot better than that. This was breaking news so what I'm going to do is, again, take myself out the shot to start with.
Welcome back to Court TV Live, along with Julie Janae and Ted Rollins. We'll head back to the Carly Gregg trial in Mississippi in just a minute, but we have some breaking news out of the state of Florida in the case concerning Donna Adelson.
They have been dealing with an issue all morning, an issue about Charlie Adelson, the son who was convicted in the death of Dan Markell already last year. He was going to be transferred to testify against his mother, but there was a waiver he needed to sign because his attorney is also his mother's current attorney. Let's go into the courtroom and see how it unfolds.
We continue forward.
Yes, Judge. May I approach the lectern?
You may.
So, Judge, with the surprise issues of the last couple of days, I have asked for my prior client's waiver again, and with the change of circumstances, he has decided not to give it. So let me be clear, I have a waiver in the past. It's from December 12th, December 13th, and an independent lawyer spoke to him as well, although did not get a signature on the waiver. So we had a waiver. We thought we had a waiver. We didn't think there was an issue. But given the events of the last 2 days, I approached appellate counsel to get a new waiver. Thought that was the right thing to do, obviously, and the cleanest thing to do. And I'm not able to obtain that waiver at this point. So as a result, I need to withdraw from the case.
Very well. Does the state wish to be heard concerning the withdrawal of counsel?
I don't think I have anything appropriate to say on the matter, Judge. Your Honor,
well
what
put.
we need to do. We would like to proceed, and I ask Your Honor to inquire whether we can proceed with second chair representing Ms. Adelson, but obviously we're ready for trial and there's a lot at stake.
Mr. Morris, are you prepared to move through this trial without Mr. Rauschbaum?
Judge, I did enough. I tried to think about all of the different potential rabbit trails, and the short answer is I do not believe that I am going to be able to be adequately prepared to proceed forward with the present calendar, primarily because of the division of labor in the case. I would move to continue for a brief period of time. That's also, in speaking with Mr. Ufferman, which is an issue that I'm going to request that we address, the objection by Mr. Adelson would still pertain to my cross-examination, and by extension, the third party would conduct cross-examination. In short, I need time to regroup.
Before we finish today, I will have the in-camera hearing review concerning whether you have been properly walled off. As to the withdrawal of lead counsel, I am going to permit it. The conflict issues are so severe, I believe, to move forward with the trial. Ms. Kappelman, Ms. Dugan would place us in a position where we would end up in a reversal. Let's go ahead and set a case management date. As to all the expense that has been undertaken with moving witnesses and preparing for trial, the state certainly, as a part of any cost of prosecution, if you are successful, may seek those costs as it relates to today, as this continuance will be charged to the defendant. As to a new date, when would the parties like to have a case management?
I think as soon as possible, Judge. I'm prepared to brainstorm with Ms. Kappelman and Ms. Dugan with the state to be able to get a trial date if we wanted to do that. But I don't know if we need additional time. So,
Ms. Dugan advises she has a court date October 15th, so that would be my suggestion.
10:15 at 2:30 will be the follow-up case management to today. Before we go into recess, I am going to conduct the in-camera hearing with Mr. Morris as to any remaining issue of who should conduct the cross-examination of Charles Adelson if called as a witness. If the court reporter can meet me in the jury room, Mr. Morris, please as well.
And there you have it. Donna Sue Adelson is not going to go to trial today. The jurors, potential jurors, are there at the courthouse ready to be selected, but this all boils down to a conflict of interest because she hired the same attorney that her son hired before in the case that he lost last year. And now Charlie Adelson is saying, I never signed a waiver saying that this was okay and you can't cross-examine me when I'm on the stand. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Marie Pereira. Marie, why today? Why did we wait until this moment after we transported all of these inmates to testify against her to decide this is a bad idea?
This was foreseeable from day one, this conflict. And I'll say it again, conflict. So I don't know why the judge didn't shut it down from day one to make sure all the documents that needed to be signed were signed and all the pre-trial hearings concerning this conflict were dealt with. Because now I'm mad because I was really looking forward to seeing Donna be on trial. The jurors are there. This is a situation that could have been handled, and the only person, like I said, I feel should have been on top of it was the judge. How did he let something like this happen? Because it was foreseeable. Come on. The moment I heard same attorney, I was like, how's that gonna happen? Look at this now.
But he was very concerned about it.
He was. He asked the parties, are you okay with this? And they said yes.
Until they didn't. And of course, they're going to pull this out at the end of the... Judge is back on the bench. Let's go back in.
Mrs. Adelson, pending if you choose to hire additional counsel or just reset the trial date, you'll certainly be able to work with Mr. Morris as your attorney in making that decision. But the trial is going to be continued from today. The jurors will be released this afternoon. Again, as to the inconvenience and delay that this has caused, I'm not happy, but at the same time, we're trying to get this right so we do not have to do it a second time. I will speak with the parties again when we have the next case management hearing. We are in recess. Yeah,
All right, buttoning it up there, Judge Everett. He has such a unique voice and demeanor. He really is, as you said, unflappable.
Calm demeanor throughout the trial, but you don't mess up inside of that courtroom. I experienced that when being there.
And he's upset. In fact, he's saying this is on the defense, and at the end of the day, if the state pursues it, they could be on the hook financially. Marie, picking up where we left off there, where it was foreseeable, the defense indicated that this was no problem, repeatedly, but what should the judge have done? Just said, you're not doing this from the beginning, that this is too much of a conflict. It's coming back because we know your client, if she loses, is going to appeal, and let's get this off the table. Is that what you're saying, that this never should have been entertained?
Not that it shouldn't be entertained, because if all the parties are on board, if Charlie's okay with it and there was a waiver, maybe the judge, before picking the jury, should have said, let's visit this waiver thing again. Do you guys have a new waiver? Maybe he should have insisted on a new waiver being signed, because apparently there's an old dusty one, and then Charlie is now saying, well, I signed it before, but I'm not with it. That's what's happening here. So maybe he should have been more on top of the waiver situation, knowing that, you know, this could be a big conflict. Even if you weren't an attorney, all our court TV, watchers were like, wow, same attorney? I think the judge could have handled it better because he should have been in charge of tracking the waiver and maybe insisted on bringing him in and maybe even having a pretrial hearing with him only and him being admonished. When I say him, Charlie, bring him in from prison and say, did you know this is what's happening. Did you sign the waiver? Are you still on board? To avoid this happening right now. But I think Charlie planned that, and he's a con. Creating a conflict. That's what this is.
I think you're on point about the possibility that they could have brought in the inmate, at least via video conference. We see that sometimes, but I do think Judge Everett very much wanted to make sure Donna Adelson was aware of this conflict. And in fact, let's go back to this morning. This is what we've seen Judge Everett do for the last 11 months with Donna Adelson when it comes to having this same attorney as her son. Take a listen.
I believe we've done this twice before, but given the circumstance and what has now arisen, it is prudent to do it once again. Do you understand that you have the right to conflict-free counsel?
I understand.
Meaning, specifically, as it relates to Mr. Brauschbaum or any other conflict that may be imputed to Mr. Morris or any other third party. Do you understand that your attorney has to be able to properly cross-examine your son if he is called as a witness?
Yes.
Do you understand how this conflict affects the cross-examination potentially or your overall defense strategy?
Yes.
Have you been able to speak with a conflict-free attorney in making the decision as to whether you wish to waive any conflict on this matter?
Judge, the short answer is going to be no, beyond having spoken with me at the inception of my representation.
Would you like to speak with conflict-free counsel concerning this issue?
Sure.
Very well. Before we finish the colloquy on this matter, then, we will go into recess. The defendant will have an opportunity to consult with conflict-free counsel. We'll resume this afternoon.
So Marie, what do you think it is? Because the Adelsons have financial resources to hire other attorneys. Everyone thought, as you mentioned, this was a bad idea because it limits what her defense can be. Daniel Rashbaum, he's a great attorney. I watched him represent Charlie zealously. It was an unwinnable case, but he represented him very well. But even being a great attorney in a case that was lost, why wouldn't she just want a new attorney from the beginning? I mean, there's an attachment there that this family has to someone who's been representing them since, I think, 2016, even before they were charged.
Maybe she just felt more comfortable with him, or maybe it is something that they strategized to cause some type of delay. I don't know. You don't know with this family, but they're sneaky, and there might be some nefarious reason. But watching the allocution of the defendant by the judge concerning the conflict, they should have done like you said, zoomed Charlie in and given him the same opportunity to speak on the possible conflicts. And was he okay with attorney-client privilege? Especially, he still has those same people representing him for the appeal. The conflict was there. This was foreseeable. It was avoidable. And I don't know how the judge let it go that far without shutting it down, because like you guys said, he seems very assertive. He's on top of it. He's not here for it, but he really dropped the ball because he's the only one who could have shut it down from the beginning, tracked it, and then just avoided the delay today.
Yeah. There's something about this family. It's just
One
par for the
thing
course.
after another.
Yeah.
But the breaking news is no Donna Adelson trial yet, and we don't have a new trial date yet.
No, we'll be back in court October 15th, and at that point set a new trial date, but it will be pushed considerably because Mr. Rashbaum now off of the case.
Just when this case couldn't get any stranger. Now the lead attorney for Donna Adelson has taken himself out. We don't know when the next time they'll meet, other than the case management, which will take place on October 15th. But what really killed this one was was the fact that the same attorney that Charlie Adelson had is his mom's attorney. How can they drop the ball like that? Yeah, it says the case against Donna Adelson has been continued. Jury selection was supposed to begin that afternoon, but defense attorney Dan Rushbaum abruptly resigned. Adelson is the fifth person to be charged in the murder of FSU law professor Dan Markle, and it was scheduled to go on trial on last week. However, the delay has to do with the fact that Rushbaum also represented Donna's son, Charlie Adelson, at his murder trial. Charlie says he never signed a waiver saying he was aware of the conflict of interest, which would make it impossible for Rushbaum to properly cross-examine him as a state witness. Alex Morris will stay on retainer as Donna's attorney, but he needs more time to prepare, as well bring on co-counsel. Guys, if it isn't one thing, it's 2 million in this case. So basically, again, we are waiting and we are watching to see exactly when this thing will actually kick off. In the meantime, we're going to move onward. This mouse will cooperate with me. Alright. Okay, we're going to get ready and go back to Julie Grant in just a minute with this case here. This is the Instagram model who's about to go on trial for the pink cocaine manslaughter case. Yeah, that's a new one. That's a new one here at Bethea'S Byte Reloaded, as well as Court TV. Macy Lathers, who admitted she was high on pink cocaine when she allegedly committed a fatal hit and run. At the moment, she is to remain behind bars until trial. No bond. Alright, let's go to Court TV's Julie Grant as we get a little more insight into this case. Florida versus Macy Lathers.
First, we're taking a closer look for you at the pink cocaine DUI case in Miami. We've got Instagram model Macy Lathers arrested after police say she caused a 3-car crash, killing 2 people. She was allegedly high on pink cocaine, or 2C, at the time. There was a pretrial detention hearing held for her on Monday, and Bridget Matter from our affiliate WPLG in Miami has more.
Macy
Macy Lathers will stay in jail as she awaits trial after a judge called her extremely dangerous. She appeared in court this morning visibly distraught with her head in her hands. The social media model is accused of killing 2 people after police say she crashed her car at almost 80 miles per hour in the city of Miami last month. Investigators say she was high on pink cocaine at the time of the crash and should not have been behind the wheel because she had a suspended license. Lathers, according to investigators, blew a red light speeding south on North Miami Avenue when she slammed into an SUV. Both cars collided with a sedan with 3 people inside, killing 2. A Miami police officer who responded to the scene took to the stand and said several witnesses believe Lathers was under the influence of something. Investigators say Lathers told them she was under the influence of Tusi and she was from the future with a crystal ball. Lathers is facing DUI manslaughter charges among other felony charges. A trial for this case will likely take place in November. Lathers is being held behind bars on no bond.
Now this hour, we pulled out for you the very best moments from that hearing on Monday from Macy Lathers. There's a detective from the Traffic Homicide Division who was called as a witness by the state. Let's listen together to what he told the court about the initial investigation.
Can you introduce yourself to the judge and spell your last name for the record, please? Detective Martin Lopez, LOPEZ, State Mine. What's your current role at State Mine Police Department? I'm a traffic homicide investigator. How long have you been a traffic homicide investigator for? Since October 2018. Were you a traffic homicide investigator on August 10th of 2024? Yes. Okay. On that day, did you have an occasion to respond to an accident at the corner of North Miami Avenue and Northeast 8th Street in the city of Miami? Yes. Were you working in your capacity as a traffic homicide investigator that day? Yes. About what time did you arrive at the scene? Approximately 8. Okay. When you arrived, what was the first thing that you did? Generally, when we first arrived to the scene, we go ahead and conduct a walk through the scene and speak to the first responding officer, PSAs, whoever on scene that has important information, and then we conduct a walk through the crash scene itself. Okay, and in this particular case, did you get information from those first responding officers? Yes, sir. Okay, and what did they tell you that they had been able to determine about the nature of the accident at that point? Initially, 3 vehicle crash, one person deceased on scene. Before I arrived, the second individual was deceased at the hospital. There were several witnesses on scene that stated that the driver of the white Mercedes vehicle, the defendant, appeared to be intoxicated at the time, and that she gave several statements to officers stating that she was Detective, let's take a look at what's been pre-marked for identification as case exhibit 1A, and when you're done looking at what's there, just look at it. Sure. Do you recognize those? Yes, sir. What are they? They're pictures of the actual crash. Okay. Did you personally take these pictures? These photographs? Okay. Do these photographs fairly and accurately depict the scene of the crash as it was on the morning of August 10th when you responded? Yes, sir. Okay. Judge, at this time, the state is looking to have what's been introduced pre-marked for identification as case exhibit 1A into evidence.
Counsel, have you seen it?
No.
Okay, why don't you show me the picture?
Sure. Judge, at this time, I'm moving back with the pre-marked case exhibit 1A into evidence.
Any objection, counsel?
No. Sure. Okay. You recognize this? Yes, sir. What is that? That is our 3-year-old Did you author this report?
Yes, sir.
And is this report a permanent part of your case file?
Yes, sir.
Does this kind of move to have a complete marketization of 1C evidence?
Any objection?
No objection.
All right. My cease, Exhibit 2.
Your Honor, let me publish the photos here, or do you want that?
Either you want to show you.
I would request publishing here.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about this case. I want to bring in domestic violence expert, former law enforcement officer, the host of the Strong Enough podcast, Claudia King. Claudia, this woman, Macy Lathers, she confesses to police at the scene for being high on pink cocaine, or 2C, as the drug is called. She says she's from the future. She is topless. She is vomiting. 2 people are dead. Tell us, please, your initial reaction to hearing these horrific facts of this crash.
Once again, I am infuriated by the way that people just go out and act in society. This is absolutely ridiculous, and she wasn't even supposed to be driving. She had a suspended license in the first place, so not only is she not even supposed to be out on the road, but now she's high while out on the road. And innocent people who, again, were doing the right thing. Some of these people were just on their way to work, and now their families are left without them. It's absolutely horrible, and watching her sway back and forth during that hearing was just annoying, because I'm not sure if she's going through withdrawals or she was upset, but she should have to sit up and listen and look at what she did and what she caused to these people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that, Claudia. I love that. You know, I'm sure you've been in front of some judges who would say to her, ma'am, sit up. Be respectful to the court. Show some respect, you know, leaning over with her hair hanging down in front of her face. There's some judges who wouldn't tolerate that for a second. You're right. Look at those victims in the courtroom as these victims have lost their loved ones. It's horrific. So we know that she caused damage that killed 2 people, according to police. They also say that they get this confession from her. So they can see the damage, there's lots of circumstantial evidence, and then she confesses to taking this drug. Claudia, what are your thoughts on this drug 2C? That's pink cocaine, it's dyed pink, has some cocaine in it, but a mixture. We had DEA agent Michael Wilhite describe it as like a potluck dinner. You don't know what's coming to dinner for your potluck, and he said it's like that. These do-it-yourself drug distributors, they're gonna make it in a kitchen with whatever they can get their hands on. Every batch is different. What are your thoughts on that aspect of this, please?
This is what is so terrifying about any of these street drugs right now, is you really have no idea what is in them. So it's absolutely not safe to be taking them. And I'm not saying it would be safe if you knew it was just cocaine or whatever, but in this day and age, we don't know, and we see so many young people, you know, trying out, you know, what they think is a pain pill or some type of opioid, and instead it's got fentanyl in it, or maybe something like this in it. So it just keeps getting worse and worse. And I just wish people would understand that when you take anything that doesn't come from the pharmacy, you have no idea what is in that, and you have no idea what reaction you're going to have to it.
Mm-hmm. Right, Claudia, right. Our hearts go out to those victims, Abraham Ismail and Jesus Rubio, 2 people who died and lost their lives. And we also know that Ismail was in that Suzuki also with his fiance, and Rubio, the friend, and his fiance survived. So there's another victim who survived this. Her name's Juanita Hernandez. So our hearts certainly go out to everybody affected by this. And, you know, of course, the driver of that Range Rover that was shoved into that Suzuki, that's an innocent party as well in all this. Just horrific. Claudia King, stand by, please. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from the detective who was on the scene of that deadly crash.
The matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible. Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her.
Now, guys, I'm going to speak my piece on this case reason that I'm gonna move forward from this. First of all, let me quickly shout out Court TV's Julie Grant. I almost said Julia Janae. Shout her out, and Claudia King for her insight on that particular case. Hey, Macy Lathers for what she for her behavior in the courtroom should have been told flat out, sit up, pay attention, and take a look at the damage you've done. Not the material damage to the car, but to the people that were lost in that fatal crash, the crash you caused. All because you had to get high on some synthetic version of cocaine, pink cocaine. I can't even pronounce the other name of it, but still, pink cocaine nonetheless. If she ends up going to trial, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This young lady is gonna do time behind bars. Period. Point blank. There's no way around that. All right. And now it's time for a brand new edition of Diddy Do It? I won't bother playing the video, but I won't read the entire article either. Sean Diddy Combs pled guilty to federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges. An indictment says the music mogul engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse toward women and other individuals. U.S. Magistrate Judge Robin Tarnowski refused to grant Combs bail and ordered him to be jailed pending trial. Combs was arrested on late Monday evening, roughly 6 months after federal authorities conducting a sex trafficking investigation raided his luxurious homes in Los Angeles and Miami. Over the past year, Diddy's been sued by people who say he subjected them to physical or sexual abuse. He has denied many of those allegations. He says he would appeal the decision to deny bail. Update: that appeal failed. Okay, now we got that part. His lawyer says his client is not a perfect person. Duh. No, there's no perfect person walking this earth today. His defense attorney was asking that he be released on bail, as said in court that by coming to New York in anticipation of the charges, the music producer did the exact opposite of what we see defendants do when they're presented with problems in the court. Mark Agnifilo, if I'm pronouncing the name right, if not, hold it to my head, said that Diddy came to New York to wait it out. The attorney also says Diddy is receiving treatment and therapy for things that he needs treatment and therapy for. His client is not a perfect person, and that he has used drugs and has been in toxic relationships. And again, I say, duh. Who hasn't been in toxic relationships? Duh. Who hasn't after some peer pressure has not dibbled and dabbled in some kind of drugs? I'm gonna hit you up all while I'm using all these does in a minute. Prosecutors raised a 2016 assault video and arguing for Combs to be detained. I don't blame him. Prosecutors seeking to have Diddy jailed without bail points to a 2016 video of the music producer assaulting a woman as she attempted to leave a California hotel. In court, Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson said the assault happened after one of Diddy's quote-unquote freak-offs, which is defined in the indictment as elaborate and produced performances. Johnson did not identify the woman who was attacked, but a video from that time, first published by CNN this year, shows Diddy attacking R&B singer Cassie. Johnson says Combs tried to bribe a hotel security officer with a handful of cash in exchange for his silence, but was unsuccessful. Say again? She says the video showing the attack disappeared from the hotel servers within days, and that this was no coincidence. Johnson says Diddy only acknowledged this attack relatively recently after being confronted with the video, and that this proves he can't be taken at his word. I'm stopping right there with the article just to speak my piece on this. First off, I don't want to get political or anything, but here's something you guys ought to know. Diddy is currently sitting behind bars right now for doing the same thing a current presidential nominee is out of prison for. Do the math, ladies and gentlemen. Now, back to Diddy. With all this stuff hanging over his head right now, if I were him, yeah, wait it out. You're waiting it out behind a jail cell. You might as well come clean now and get it over with. Because this is not a game. And I don't know how much stock I can take in this, but I heard through a TikTok video, and again, I don't know how much stock I can take in this. As far as I'm concerned, I'm counting this as a rumor. I heard that it was Diddy who had Tupac taken out. But, like I said, that's a rumor. I don't know how much stock to take in that, so just act as if I didn't say it. I know I am. Okay, let's see. Let's move onward. Oh, and I gotta do the obligatory. Tune in next time for likely another edition of Diddy Do It. Good grief, my mouse is acting full. Okay. We have 6 jurors who convicted Ashley Benefield being asked questions about a phone allegedly being brought into the jury deliberation room. Now, anybody who knows that's a no-no. This is an hour-long video, so I will not bring that to you tonight, but I will go with the article. The jurors who convicted Ashley Benefield of killing her husband will be called back to appear before a judge to answer questions. 32-year-old Ashley Benefield will face up to 30 years in jail when she is sentenced after the 6-person jury found her guilty of manslaughter on July 30th. Her attorneys are fighting her conviction to be overturned and to receive a new trial, alleging juror and prosecutorial misconduct. Judge Stephen White presided over a hearing for the motion and determined he would bring in the jury panel to be interviewed based on the defense's allegations. Benefield did not appear at the hearing and was represented by two attorneys, Neil Taylor, who represented her at trial, and William Pownall. Juror number 15, who deliberated the case, is accused of lying on a questionnaire given to the prospective jurors before voir dire. The document admonishes that the form is filled out under the penalty of perjury. The juror denied having any experience with domestic violence courts or heated custody battles, but Benefield's attorney said they found the same person was served an injunction during their custody dispute and was listed as a victim in multiple domestic violence cases. That is an absolute and direct contradiction to the forms that she signed, Taylor told Judge Stephen White. Prosecutors argued that there was no evidence of any intentional deception and accused the defense of failing to ask the appropriate questions during voir dire. You cannot rely solely on a questionnaire. You have to delve into it. That's according to Assistant State Attorney Suzanne O'Donnell in her argument. And the record you have shows the defense did not delve into it. Benefield's attorneys have also accused an unknown juror of sneaking a phone into the deliberation room and texting out updates. O'Donnell argued that comments on a live stream are insufficient evidence to prove that a phone was actually in the room. Even if the phone was in the room, there is insufficient evidence to suggest any messages were sent to it or that any information was incoming to the deliberation room. Judge White ultimately disagreed with the prosecution and said he would interview all the jurors under strict guidelines. The jurors will all be questioned in camera, meaning, ironically, no cameras will be allowed, and it will not be done in an open courtroom. The jurors will each be questioned separately, and Judge White himself will ask the questions, which will have been submitted beforehand by both the defense and prosecution. Judge White noted that Juror 15 would be offered a court-appointed attorney should she need one given the circumstances and questions she will be asked. This is only the first step for Benefield's attorneys. After the in-camera interviews, Benefield's attorneys are expected to file new motions asking for a new trial based on what they learn. Now, in my opinion, I don't think the defense has a leg to stand on in this case. If a juror really had enough gumption to sneak a phone into the jury room during deliberations, that would automatically cause a mistrial. That should have caused a mistrial right there and then, and that should have been called out right then and there. But there's only so much information that has to be brought forth in order to make a claim like that. So once again, we wait and see what develops. Next, we have an update on the suspect in the apparent Trump assassination attempt. Sure, he was hanging out there at that golf course. Sure, he had the weapon, but he never fired it. That's according to that's according to his defense. So what I'm going to do is I am going once again to hit the copyright disclaimer. take myself out.
Right now, we need to hit the pause button to bring you new developments in the second attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. The FBI, Secret Service, and the U.S. Attorney held a news conference late this afternoon to update the investigation. Officials reveal cell phone data shows the suspect, who's been identified as 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ralph, was in the vicinity of the golf course 12 hours before the incident. A Secret Service agent spotted Ralph in the bushes at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach yesterday, pointing a gun, but Ralph never fired his weapon. Agents fired shots at him, and Ralph escaped, but was caught moments later. Officials say they found the weapon along with a digital camera and a backpack in the area where Ralph was lying in wait. He made his first court appearance today. So far, he has been charged with 2 counts, including possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. This was the second assassination attempt on the former president. Now, during a political rally in Pennsylvania back in July, you may recall that a gunman fired a shot at Trump, and that one grazed Trump's ear.
So, Ryan Wesley Ralph is the man who was hiding there, and basically he was just there. He had the weapon. He had the weapon, but he never fired it, which, in my opinion, is still foolish. Let's see. Authorities believe 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ralph pointed a high-powered rifle through a fence near where Trump was playing golf at his club in Florida. A Secret Service agent reportedly saw an individual and what appeared to be a rifle in the tree line before firing in that direction. With reports of gunfire, the former president's close protection detail immediately evacuated the president to a safe location. That's according to acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe Jr. Ralph was able to flee the scene in a Nissan SUV. He was arrested a short time later after a witness described the alleged gunman to authorities. According to the criminal complaint, deputies with the Martin County Sheriff's Office pulled Ralph over nearby I-95. He was driving with the flow of traffic, said Martin County Sheriff William Snyder. I think he may have thought he got away with it. Well, surprise, surprise, as Gomer Powell would say, surprise, surprise, you got away with absolutely nothing. Whether he fired the weapon or not, this guy has to face justice. Justice for just a mere vain attempt at assassinating a former president of the United States. And that's all I got to say about that. Next up, this woman, Bionca Ellis, her case turned my stomach in two when I first reported. But only thing it's confirming now is something that I already knew. The suspect accused of fatally stabbing 3-year-old Jillian Wood earlier this summer in a Giant Eagle parking lot has been ordered to an inpatient treatment facility after being deemed incompetent to stand trial for the time being. According to the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas records, Bionca Ellis was undergoing a 20-day evaluation when the doctor treating her stated that the defendant is incompetent to stand trial, but that there is a substantial probability of restoration of competency within the statutory time frame if provided with a course of treatment. Ellis has been ordered to Ellis has been ordered to undergo treatment at North Coast Behavioral Health Care. Once treatment has been completed, she will be placed back into the custody of the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office. Ohio Revised Code states the statutory time frame to determine if Ellis could be competent for a future trial is 1 year. In July, Ellis' defense says that she was incompetent to stand trial and was not able to assist in her own defense. In June, Ellis was indicted on the following charges. I hope you got your paper ready. 1 count of aggravated murder. 2 counts of attempt of murder. 2 counts of attempted murder. 2 counts of felonious assault. 1 count of endangering children. 1 count of tampering with evidence. And 1 count of misdemeanor theft. According to authorities, Ellis allegedly stole 2 knives from the Volunteers of America store and then walked next door to Giant Eagle, where she spotted a 38-year-old woman pushing a child in a cart. Authorities followed the mother and her son, 3-year-old Jillian Wood, into the parking lot and then stabbed the child while he was in a grocery cart. When the mother tried to pull the boy out of the cart during the attack, Ellis stabbed her as well. And all for what? Only someone in their right mind would have any good reason why to do something this heinous, this heartless. But apparently that's not the case. That's not the case with Bionca Ellis. She was definitely not in her right mind, which is all the reason why now she's unable to assist in her own defense, and she is incompetent to stand trial. So hopefully, I pray to God I'm still doing this by this time next year, because I want to know if she will be competent to stand trial by then. Okay, South Carolina versus Blauvett. I'll do it in a little bit, because that's one of the verdicts I'm saving for last. Next up, Brendan Banfield. Hopefully no relation to News Nation's Ashley Banfield has been indicted in the murder of his wife and another man nearly a year after the arrest of their au pair. Let's dig into that. It's only 51 seconds worth. I can go ahead with the article. A Virginia man was indicted in the killing of his wife and another man at the married couple's Fairfax County home nearly a year after the family's au pair was charged in the case. A grand jury indicted Brandon Benefield on the charge of aggravated murder in the February 2023 killings of Christine Banfield and Joseph Bryan, according to a bench warrant filed in the Fairfax Circuit Court. Banfield was also charged with 1 count of felony firearm use. Police Chief Kevin Davis said in a news conference that Banfield was arrested while driving in Fairfax County, and that authorities were searching in his home on Monday. An attorney for Banfield did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Banfield's arrest comes nearly a year after Juliana Perez Magales, an au pair caring for the Banfield's daughter, was charged with second-degree murder in Ryan's killing. Magales is scheduled for trial in that case in November. The fact that we've indicted Brandon today and made that arrest does not mean her case is being thrown out, Fairfax County Commonwealth Attorney Steve Descano said. We intend to go forward with that case as scheduled. On the day of the killings, authorities have said Magales called 911 at least 2 times within minutes, but ended the calls before speaking with first responders. More than 10 minutes later, authorities have said in court Magales called 911 a final time and reported the emergency. Brendan Banfield then spoke into the phone and said he had shot a man because that man stabbed his wife. Authorities soon arrived at the Banfield's home in Herndon, Virginia, and found that Ryan had been fatally shot and Christine Banfield suffered from stab wounds. She was taken to the hospital where she died. According to affidavits, Magales told authorities and Brandon Banfield left the house early that morning, leaving Christine Banfield home alone. Magales said she and Brendan Banfield returned later that morning. When Magales and Brendan Banfield went inside, the two found Ryan holding a knife to Christine Banfield's throat. That was according to Magales. She alleged Ryan stabbed Christine Banfield and that Brandon Banfield then shot Ryan. Magales also told authorities that she shot Ryan once with a second firearm. Authorities have said the killings were a part of a larger scheme between Magales and Brendan Banfield, whom officials allege began a romantic relationship in the months leading up to the killings. At court hearings for Magales, prosecutors questioned her, telling of events, arguing that Ryan was not known to be violent. Prosecutors also have said Magales and Brendan Banfield continued a romantic relationship after the double homicide. Prosecutor Descano said Banfield would be arraigned later on, and he was being held without bail at the Fairfax County Jail. Woo! It's too much. One woman worried about. We got one woman who could be stabbed to death. Got one who could one man being shot. A possible romantic relationship. That is so much to unravel. This is one of those wait and see things where we get all the evidence out. So stay tuned for all that. Speaking of a new prosecutor, I'm going to say one name, and I'm going to tell you right now, guys. I'm going to say her name, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like her chances. The name is Karen Reed. She's going to deal with a brand new prosecutor. This is going to be the guy who prosecuted James Whitey Bulger. Oh yeah. The Norfolk County District Attorney is committed to moving forward with prosecuting Karen Reed, and they're bringing in a new face to do it. Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey announced that a defense attorney would be stepping in as a special assistant DA to retry the case. Adam Lally was the prosecutor during Reed's first trial, which ended in a mistrial when the jury said it could not come to a unanimous verdict. Reed is facing several charges, including second-degree murder for the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Morrissey named Hank Brennan, who he called a highly respected and skilled former prosecutor and longtime defense attorney with over 25 years of experience in state and federal courts, to lead the retrial. That's according to WBTS. Morrissey said in the statement that Brennan would be working alongside the previous trial team, including Lally, Laura McLaughlin, and Caleb Schillinger. Brennan is no stranger to the public eye, according to his website. His recent clients included notorious mobster James Whitey Bulger and Nancy Kerrigan's brother Mark, who was charged with his father's death. Brennan said in the statement, "I have two core obligations." This statement obtained by WFXT. The first is to make certain that Karen Reed receives a fair trial. Ms. Reed will receive the dignity and fairness that every defendant deserves in our criminal justice system. The second is to ensure that the facts surrounding John O'Keefe's death are fully and fairly aired in the courtroom without outside influence. Reed, in the meantime, has asked the state's highest court to dismiss two of the charges against her, arguing that the jury had come to a unanimous decision on two of the charges before Judge Beverly Canone declared a mistrial. And the retrial, once again, is scheduled to begin on January 27th, 2025. So, once again, let me remind you, the same man who was the defense attorney for James Whitey Bulger is coming in as a special assistant attorney against Karen Reed. Those options, her chances do not look good. Next. During a press conference, officials purported that the body found is likely Joseph Couch after items associated with him were found in the area. Joseph Couch. A body found in rural southeastern Kentucky is believed to be the man suspected of shooting and wounding 5 people on the interstate highway. The search ended with 2 private sleuths joining in the dramatic discovery. Kentucky State Police Commissioner Philip Burnett Jr. said the body located earlier in the day was believed to be Joseph Couch of Woodbine. Authorities hope the discovery signaled the conclusion of an intense, nearly 2-week search that had area residents on edge. People have been in fear, Laurel County Sheriff John Root said. That's not the normal here in Laurel County. So now that this has been discovered, I hope that our county can get back to what's normal. A dozen vehicles were hit and 5 people wounded in the September 7th shooting on Interstate 75 near London, a city of about 8,000 people, roughly 75 miles south of Lexington, Kentucky. Burnett said that accessories found with the body led authorities to conclude it was Couch. He had no details on the cause of death, saying it would be determined in an autopsy. But he said a weapon was found at the site. He didn't know how long the body had been there. We are very confident this brings closure to the search for Joseph Couch, Burnett said. Root said the discovery of the body wasn't the outcome authorities wanted. I don't think nobody on this stage wished that he wished we would have found him in the condition that we found. I'd rather he'd been alive and he could have paid for what he's done. That was that was Root in a press conference. The body had been found following an exhaustive search of the rugged and hilly terrain in the area where the attack happened. Teams combed 28,000 acres in the search. But it is a private couple who will reap a $25,000 reward for their part in the discovery. YouTube streamers Fred and Sheila McCoy, shout out to them, from Kentucky said they searched the area for about 6 days and were looking for signs of vultures in the air. Fred McCoy said he saw some near the I-75 exit Wednesday, and they followed the rough terrain down a valley. Then they picked up on a bad smell. Hey guys, you won't believe it. We found him. Oh my goodness gracious, Sheila McCoy said while filming the search. Now this little area can rest. State troopers had searched the area all day and also noticed vultures hovering above and then detected a strong odor. While moving through the woods to locate the odor, the troopers heard voices, identified themselves, and asked others to do so. It turned out to be the McCoys who told troopers that they were also searching for Couch. Almost immediately after that interaction between troopers and the troopers and the McCoys stumbled on an unidentified body. The highway shootings led some schools to shut down and shift to virtual learning for several days as authorities warned residents to be extra vigilant. Schools reopened with bolstered police security, in the county where the shooting happened. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear called the shootings an act of violence and evil. Authorities said the shooter fired 20 to 30 rounds, creating a chaotic scene. The 5 victims survived, but some suffered some serious injuries. I'm going to stop right there and simply say that I'm glad that they found this guy's remains. I'm glad that that little county in Kentucky can finally have peace. And this is a guy that should have got a hold of in the first place. But that's no longer neither here nor there. They found him. They found him. Now that, like I said, that town can rest easy. We have a man, Robert Parmalee, who posted photos, videos, and comments about UConn basketball star Paige Buchers and emailed varsity staff. Now he's accused of stalking her, and he's been arrested with ring. A man accused of stalking and harassing UConn basketball star Paige Buchers said on social media that he intended to marry her and had an engagement ring and lingerie in his possession when he was arrested near a Connecticut airport, according to police reports. 40-year-old Robert Cole Parmalee posted statements on TikTok and sent emails to the University of Connecticut officials that showed an infatuation with Buchers and included threats, according to police. Parmalee, whose last known addresses were in Grants Pass, Oregon, and Ritzville, Washington, was ordered detained on $100,000 bail after being arraigned on the charges in the courthouse in Rockville, Connecticut. He was also ordered to stay away from a person named in court as PB and banned from UConn campus in stores. His public defender did not immediately return an email seeking comment. Parmalee was initially arrested on August 27th while walking along a highway near Bradley International Airport near Hartford. He told a state trooper that he had just flown in from the Pacific Northwest and he was on his way to see Buchers at Yukon, adding he was found with a ring and lingerie. The trooper took Parmalee into custody when he learned that there was an arrest warrant out of Josephine County, Oregon, accusing Parmalee of setting a home on fire with roommates and pets inside. Parmalee had posted photos, videos, and comments about Buchers on TikTok and other social media platforms and had been emailing Yukon officials since June with rambling comments about, including his desire to marry Buchers. The postings and emails initially did not warrant criminal charges, but his comments became alarming over time. An arrest warrant affidavit redacts the name of the Yukon student at whom Parmalee's posts were directed and names her only as V1. But Parmalee's posted on social media about his desire to marry V1. Parmalee has shown a continual escalating behavior and directed effort to make electronic postings about V1 and threats against those close with V1, which has caused emotional distress over the past 2 weeks for V1. That's according to a Yukon police officer in an affidavit written Friday. I'm stopping the article right here, but as you can see on the left side of your screen, this is Yukon star basketball player Paige Buchers. This is the guy that Robert Parmalee is and I'm using the word obsessed with. So what I'm gonna do is say this. His obsession is going to lead to some prison time, and that's time he doesn't want. So he might as well be prepared for it. Next, in the latest chapter with Boone. Yeah, the latest chapter. Now we know she is going to go with self-defense. No, I'm not gonna subject you all to nearly 2 hours worth of a hearing. I will say this, that I will read this off to you, that in an announcement that left the judge momentarily speechless, Sarah Boone's attorney announced that she would be relying on an argument of self-defense at her upcoming murder trial. Boone is charged with the second-degree murder of her boyfriend, Jorge Torres Jr., who was found dead inside a zipped suitcase after a night of drinking at the couple's apartment. James Owens, who stepped in as Boone's ninth attorney after she struggled to briefly represent herself pro se, told Judge Michael Kranick at a motions hearing on Thursday, "We're using the battered spouse syndrome for the defense, not accident." The news shocked Judge Kranick, who paused after confirming. "Are you claiming self-defense?" "Well, that's the first time I've heard that." To bolster the defense, Owens had asked the judge to force the state to declare the exact criminal acts it alleged Boone made, whether that be zipping the suitcase or failing to take action to open the suitcase when Torres begged to come out. Owens noted that this is a unique case because there is no firearm or item typically thought of as a weapon. Judge Kranick denied the request, saying the state's indictment is sufficient as it stands. Boone and Torres had a violent relationship, and Court TV found several charges filed against Torres in the years before his death, relating it to allegedly beating Boone. Owens had retained two experts to testify on Boone's behalf to say she suffered from battered spouse syndrome, one of whom recently testified for Marsha Thompson, who was acquitted of murdering her husband based on the same defense. But prosecutors are trying to block Boone from using the defense at all. In videos from police body-worn cameras at the scene after she called 911 and interrogations in the days following, Boone repeatedly told investigators that the two had been having a fun night and that Torres had gotten into the suitcase as part of a game of hide and seek. One second. Prosecutors suggested that proceeding with this defense would force Boone to take a stand to testify in a narrative style, similar to Robert Ellis, who was recently convicted of murdering investigative journalist Jeff German. In a ruling released the next day, Judge Cranick said he would allow the defense to use the battered spouse syndrome defense and mention it in their opening statements. The order requires Boone to submit to an examination by an expert of the state's choosing no later than September 26th. Boone's trial is scheduled to start on October 7th, and when it begins, she is asked to be dressed in street clothes rather than the jail uniform she has worn to each of her hearings so far. On Thursday, Owens said he would be filing an additional motion to ask for her to be allowed to have her makeup applied and her hair done for the trial. Okay, I'm gonna hit some things on this one before I move forward. First, wearing street clothes. Okay, I get that. You pretty much want to present yourself as, well, human. I get that. Second, makeup. You're worried about your makeup? You better worry about what's number 3 on my list. The battered spouse syndrome defense. How well is this defense gonna work out? Because like the judge said, she's gonna have to get on the witness stand and defend herself in a narrative style. She's gonna have to tell her story as to how Jorge Torres beat on her, if that was such the case, tormented her, if that was such the case, that would lead her to leave him inside of a zipped suitcase. Worry about the big stuff that could put you behind bars. The little stuff is just that, little. Oh boy. This one's a doozy, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm just hearing about this for the first time. Sheriff Mickey Steins allegedly shot and killed Letcher County District Judge Kevin Mullins in his district office. For what reason? Let's find out. In fact, let's go to Court TV Live to find out. So once again, copyright disclaimer up.
Welcome back. We're learning new details about the fatal shooting of a judge in Kentucky. Former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Steins is now in jail charged with killing District Judge Kevin Mullins. Now, Mullins was shot to death inside of his chambers after the two men apparently got into an argument. Scripps News affiliate Lexington has more.
Kentucky State Police say it happened inside the judge's chambers. They say there was an argument, and that's when the sheriff shot the judge multiple times.
This community is small in nature, and we're all shook.
In Whitesburg at the Letcher County Courthouse, police say they got a call around 3 p.m. Thursday of a shooting. Troopers say Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins shot and killed District Judge Kevin Mullins behind closed doors. They say the sheriff, who is in his second term, surrendered. His motive is unknown at this time.
We could use everybody's prayers, send prayers for the family that they get through this difficult time.
It's unclear who will be named interim sheriff. State police say they will head up the investigation. The Attorney General announcing early Thursday evening his office would collaborate with the Commonwealth's attorney as special prosecutors on the case. The sheriff is facing a first-degree murder charge. He's being held at a local detention center. Ellen Ice, Scripps News, Letcher County, Kentucky.
Letcher County Circuit Court Clerk Mike Watts says that he saw Steins and Mullins together shortly before noon yesterday, just 3 hours before the shooting. He says both men were getting ready to go out to lunch together. Now, Watts indicated that Steins seemed quieter than usual. Steins had been a bailiff in Judge Mullins' courtroom for years before becoming sheriff. No word yet on what may have led to the shooting. Officials say Steins was deposed on Monday in a lawsuit filed by two women, including one who claimed a deputy forced her to have sex inside Mullins' chambers for 6 months in exchange for staying out of jail. The lawsuit accused Sheriff Steins of, quote, deliberate indifference and failing to adequately train and supervise that particular deputy. All right, let's bring back in our guests, still with us, criminal defense attorneys Marsha Minot and Marie Pineda. Marsha Minot, this one, I don't even know where to begin on it. I think there's certainly something under the surface here that we have yet to get to, but your thoughts quickly.
Definitely. There's some type of back personal relationship that is not being shared as yet. That's definitely going to come out as it pertains to what's going on with the judge and the sheriff. Sheriffs are responsible for controlling the security at the courthouse. So I don't know if the judge might have threatened the sheriff with losing his job. That caused him to snap and just kill the judge. But this is bizarre.
Marie, I think it goes even further than that. I mean, the idea that a bailiff, so the bailiff who was accused of taking women into Mullins' chambers to have sex, succeeded Steins as the bailiff for Judge Mullins. So now you have that connection, and they're having sex with women inside of his office. Now, I'm not implicating anyone, but again, it's a tangled web we're beginning to weave.
I agree with Marsha. There's a lot to find out. I'm thinking heat of passion. Did he plan it? Was there motive based on what we're hearing? But he's presumed innocent until found guilty. But this is going to be a salacious one. I'm looking forward to it. I need those details.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way. And it's interesting because if one thinks about it, Marsha, if Mullins maybe was threatening to, out what they were doing, this was some larger thing that had been going on. Steins had he was relatively new to the office of sheriff in that county. Maybe this is something that had been going on for quite a while, and he threatened to out him. That's the only thing I can think of. And for a minute, I thought maybe there might have been some kind of personal relationship, beyond a friendship between the two of them, but I'm not sure.
It could be. It sounds as if somebody was getting outed, because this type of snapping by law enforcement says to me some human being was cornered, and based on being cornered regarding they're going to be outed, somebody's going to tell you, you're going to get charged, you're going to be arrested, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. Those type of threats could cause a sheriff to say, I'm snapping, I'm going to have to kill this guy. There's way more behind the scenes than just a sheriff that guards a judge or guards the courthouse ended up getting into a regular argument. I know this wasn't a lunchroom argument. This has to do either the sex going on in the judge's chambers, or the judge found out about what was going on, if he was not involved in it and said, you're going to jail, and now the sheriff says, I got to kill this guy.
Yeah, that's very well put. It was definitely Steins was somehow put in a corner. That's the only thing I can think of. What we do know is that the Kentucky AG is going to come in and act as special prosecutor. They're looking now to appoint a judge to the case. I would imagine, Marie, want to get a judge from somewhere else. Would it be appropriate to have a judge from that particular courthouse?
No, I think it's too close to home, and they should get someone who is unbiased, neutral, and not connected so much emotionally to that particular courthouse and the venue. Just make it clean and get someone who has no, as Julie Grant would say, no dogs in the race at all.
No dogs in the race, absolutely. Again, we're going to sit back and continue to follow this case. As more comes up, we will let you know, but there's definitely more percolating under the surface.
I gotta agree with Michael Ayala at the very end. There's a lot more percolating under the surface of this one, so we're gonna stay tuned. I'm gonna keep an eye on this one, and when I get more information on it, I will bring it to you. Let's see. Next up, 3 men were accused of torturing a roommate for 14 hours inside of a Colorado home. The victim said he suffered severe injuries and was shot with rock salt fired from an airsoft-type firearm. In Jefferson, wait. Let me go ahead and like I promised you earlier, I said there was going to be a point where I would hit you with a trigger warning. Here you go. This is one of those cases that required a trigger warning. Viewer and the hearer's discretion is strongly advised. All right. 3 men are facing charges that they allegedly kidnapped and tortured their roommate for hours inside a Colorado home. You'll see these gentlemen as I point them out from left to right. You have 49-year-old Jason Carlson, 41-year-old Luke Anala, and 48-year-old Sherelle Allen, each charged with attempted first-degree felony murder, kidnapping, and assault after the alleged victim described what happened to police. The victim, a 45-year-old man, told officers that he had been tied up, beaten, burned, and whipped for 14 hours in his home. The victim told investigators he had been living at the property owned by Carlson for a couple of weeks with his sister. He said that he was in the basement bedroom early Sunday morning when he heard the 3 suspects in the house talking about beating him up. The victim called his sister and said they needed to get out of the house, then tried to crawl out of the bedroom window unsuccessfully. Despite an attempt to barricade himself in the room, the victim told police that Carlson, Anaya, and Allen broke in a short time later. At that point, the victim said he was shot with rock salt fired from an airsoft-type firearm, assaulted, and knocked to the floor. He suffered severe injuries after one of the suspects allegedly stepped on his neck, causing him to lose consciousness. When the victim woke up, he said he was bound to a chair with zip ties and electrical tape. He said the suspects took turns hitting his knees with a baseball bat, while one hit his head with a pry bar and another tried to burn him by pouring rubbing alcohol on his face and lighting the liquid on fire. At some point, the victim says he was moved upstairs where the assault continued. The attack allegedly stopped when a 4th roommate arrived at the house and told the trio to leave the victim alone. That roommate called a man unknown to the victim, who then took him to the hospital and dropped the victim at the emergency entrance. The victim suffered from singed eyebrows, burn marks on his face, swollen knees, and broken thyroid cartilage in his neck. Markings on his wrists and ankles were consistent with the story of being bound, according to court documents. Investigators are working to locate a fourth suspect who has not been identified. Police have not offered any motive for the attack. To which I'm saying, really? Three guys to torture a man, and for what good reason? What possibly could that man have done? It's amazing. It absolutely amazes me what people will do these days. Just to hurt people and probably brag about it afterwards. Well, we'll see how much you're bragging once you're put behind bars. Alright. I've waited all night for this. Now we're gonna get to it. Where is it? No, that's not the one. That's not the one. Oh, let's start with this one first. We're gonna start with a verdict watch. We're gonna go to South Carolina. Military wife murder trial. South Carolina versus John Tufton Blauvett. He's charged with the murder of his estranged wife, Catherine. The verdict is in. So here's what we're gonna do here. Okay. Here's copyright. Here's
Judge Stanley, let me hear from State first.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Your Honor sat through this entire trial for this week, and you have heard the heinous way in which John Blauvett caused the death of Katie. Your Honor, I'm not really sure there's much impact that the state could give regarding sentencing. However, Katie's mother and two of her sisters would like to address you at the appropriate time, Your Honor, and we would obviously defer to their wants and wishes in this case. Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, first is Brandy Blackwell, sister to Katie Blauvett.
Sorry, I didn't know I was allowed to turn this on. I was waiting until the last moment. I didn't know, I didn't want to have this on. I didn't want to get in trouble, so I was waiting until the last moment.
Take your time, take your time.
Judge, my name is Brandy Blackwell. I'm Katie's eldest sister, and I wanted to read what is my daughter Cheyenne's statement. Let me just find it. Okay. The twisted and evil actions of John Blauvett took so much from so many. He took the innocence and youth from so many naive young adults in which he was meant to guide. He took a daughter from her mother, a sister from loving siblings, an aunt from her nieces, and a friend from so many. Most of all, John took Katie's life, her future, and all of her peace in the end. 6 years went by where John was able to escape the reality of what he did, as well as the consequences of his actions. He had the ability to live a life and feel at peace. During those same 6 years, I worried that he would come back. I hoped and prayed that he was not taken from others as he took from us. My husband and I started our lives, our family, within the same years we spent trying to heal from the trauma and chaos John caused. Memories of our first apartment also bring memories of In Pursuit, setting up in our living room, and having to relive and remember what John had done in an attempt to help catch him. Memories of having our first child got mixed with the fear that he would come back. How could we protect our family and our peace from someone who couldn't be found? We left our home, our families at a young age in an attempt to escape all of the memories and the what-ifs. Not a day goes by that I don't think of Katie. I wonder what her future would have looked like. What kind of adventures we would have had together as we both grew. I even wonder how many cats she would have had, probably a lot. Those are the good thoughts I have daily. I also wonder what her last thoughts were. I relived that last conversation we had, and I wish we would have known that she was in danger. I think about how scared she must have been, and I wish that I could have protected her from him. I want to tell her so many things, and it hurts knowing I'll never get the chance. Nothing can bring Katie back or heal all of the pain John caused. The only thing we can do for her now is make sure that he's never capable of hurting anyone else. She would want that to protect others from what she endured. Thank you.
Your Honor, next is Jennifer Piver.
Your Honor, thank you for this time. I'm Jennifer Piver, Katie's stepsister. And as I stand here, I never could have imagined that I would have had anything to be grateful for today, but this is where I want to start. From the moment we walked into the Simpsonville Police Department to report Katie missing, the investigators took us seriously, trusted we knew our Katie, understood something serious was wrong, and immediately began to search for Katie. We will forever be grateful to Moorcraft, Donnelly, and Schofield, Kristen, for their kindness during our darkest hours. For their 8 years' continued pursuit of justice for Katie, for their willingness to follow every lead and to answer millions of questions, and their assurance that they will never give up. We also know there's a whole village behind the Simpsonville, Fountain, and Greenville Police Departments who helped. We might not know your name, but trust that we are grateful. Later, the U.S. Marshals were added to this pursuit, and I often thought that you had total control of the Wild West. I didn't know how you would do it. I had no idea what tools were at your disposal, but I had faith. That you would bring him back to Greenville to face the consequences. You did that, and I thank you. To the Attorney General's office team, Kelley, John, Erica, and Krista, you were magnificent. Your skills, competence, confidence, and most importantly, your commitment to Katie made us believe that there would be justice for Katie after all, and I'm grateful. I'm also grateful for my family, friends, and the community who day to day pushed us for 8 years and propped us up. At times we didn't think we could go on. Obviously, the focus this week was on Katie's murder. It was the focus of the single worst day of our lives. I appreciate that now is our time to remind you that there were 22 years of life prior to this horrific day. And now is the time to remember that Katie was more than a victim of a violent and selfish act. This week we saw the brutal photos of Katie's bruised body. We saw the cut cuts on her neck and the deep stab wound that drained her of her life. We also saw that last selfie she took right before her death. She was beautiful, she was silly, and she was okay. It served as a reminder of John's manipulation and betrayal. She still trusted him. She begged for her life. She hoped he would free her. He did not. Oh, that's great. What I wish everyone could have seen would be the tens of thousands of photos of Katie. When I say tens of thousands, I really do mean it. That girl couldn't put her phone down ever, and there certainly wasn't a filter she didn't try. Her and our little sister Taylor used to sit there for hours taking goofy photos of themselves. We would be watching movies, and those two would be clicking away and giggling. It was annoying. And oh, how I would give anything to be annoyed by their joyfulness again. In those photos, you would see her beautiful, thick, long hair, twinkling eyes, her unmistakable and joy-filled smile. You would see her playfulness. You would see her pulling family and friends into photos, too. At any time, you would hear her talking about Harry Potter, and Lord knows she would never be without a book. We would want you all to know that there is never a bigger animal lover. She loved her PetSmart family, particularly her fur babies. She was happiest when she was with them. We would want you to know that she was loved and loving. She made the most incredible BLTs in the middle of the night. We would sit up, eat, and talk because it was the only time we were in the house together. We did this the very night before she died. I also want you to know that I think Katie was brave. She took a risk in loving John, and she would have loved him fiercely and his daughter Madison forever. Katie was loyal and loving. However, John abused that love and loyalty and then abused her. He put a gun to her head, threatened her family. He wanted her to kill herself, isolated her, and he wanted her dead. However, our Katie was brave. She left him. We started to see her again. She risked everything. She moved out. She came home to those who loved her. Free from John's control, Katie was becoming the woman she was always meant to be. She grew more confident and happier with each day. Since the day Katie was violently murdered and thrown away, our lives have been pieces. We have no peace. We are not alone. There's a whole community who was affected by Katie's death. These young kids who didn't know any better have had a hard time navigating the cruel world this murder introduced them to. For my family, none of us are the same. We keep brave faces. We go through the motions. We've tried to stay strong and engaged in the world for our kids, nephews, and nieces. My heart breaks for all of our minis who never met Katie, and for all of our minis who can't understand the brokenness they see in us. We are haunted by the horror and walk with a deep sense of grief. Her loss in our lives is profound and permanent. Your Honor, I would like to close with this. John Blauvett was a coward. He evaded responsibility. He showed no remorse. He mocked the law. He continued to blame Katie. He was free for 6 years. He got to see the Grand Canyons. Katie didn't. He got to see the Golden Gate Bridge. Katie didn't. That time of running, evading the law, and living without consequences must end. I've heard it said that if someone tells you who they are, believe them. Your Honor, you now know what others didn't know at that time. Please take him seriously. He told us he was born to kill the good and the bad. He told us he did it. He is telling us that if he is ever free, he will hurt or kill again. Believe him. We ask that you send a message that domestic violence and murder will not be tolerated in South Carolina. In doing so, you will send a message to other abused South Carolina women that they too will be believed, that they can get help, and despite what happened to Katie, there is hope. I ask that you send a profound and permanent message by sentencing John Tufton out to life in prison. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Your Honor, finally,
I'm pausing right there because of I'm realizing now that I am in the victim impact stage portion where the victims of the victims' relatives get to say what they want to say before the judge passes sentence on John Tuft and Blauvett, and before I even get to all that, I can go ahead and make this partial spoiler for you. John Blauvett had been found guilty of murdering his estranged wife. He was charged with murder and possession of a weapon during a violent crime in the death of Catherine Katie Boyer Blauvett. 22-year-old Katie served in the U.S. Army and worked at PetSmart when she died, as you've heard in one victim impact statement. Katie was reported missing on October 23, 2016, and after she failed to meet with her friends after work, her body was found the next day inside an abandoned house in Simpsonville. Investigators say she was stabbed to death. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm gonna go ahead and jump the gun. I'm going to try to get to the sentencing as quickly as possible. Okay, I believe that's the spot. All right, so here I go again. Again, I'm muting. I'm keeping the copyright disclaimer up. I'm muting my mics. I'm taking myself out the shot. I'm muting the sound on the board here, and you'll get to hear the sentencing.
Ineligible to be heard in Veterans Treatment Court. Fast forward again to John's time in Oregon. While he was away, he lived a very simple life. Did farm work when that he's a friend.
Some alcoholism, and ultimately I think that is how we wind up 2022. So if Your Honor gave him the minimum,
will always be missed, and she will be somebody that you will always remember and keep in your heart. It's a difficult thing, and you'll never forget it. Hopefully, this will bring some closure to the family, to you and your family. Hopefully, this will bring some closure. I know it won't for the rest of your life totally be that closure, but at least maybe now it can put some of this behind you and your family, and to some degree move on. I know it is difficult. Ms. Blauvett, it's a tragedy for you as well. You are a young man, but you were a young man when all this occurred. It sounded like you had a beginning of a good military career. You had a daughter. So you had a lot to live for. But the crimes that you've been convicted of here have caused irreparable harm to many. I hope that while you are incarcerated, that you reflect on the choices that you have made and the impact that has occurred on everyone that's been involved in this case. The law in its wisdom provides consequences. And the consequences in this case, the charge of murder, are that you spend the rest of your life incarcerated with the South Carolina Department of Corrections without the possibility of parole. As to the charge of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, that does not apply due to the life sentence. Again, as I have said, it is a tragedy for all, and hope that some measure of justice has occurred here, and that, Mr. Blauvett, you will hopefully reflect during your time in incarceration on the choices you have made. That is the sentence of the court, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So there you have it. There you have it. John Tufton Blauvett will be spending the rest of his life in prison without the chance of parole. And this is a young man too, 33 years of age, just threw his entire life away because he couldn't work things out with his estranged wife. And speaking of someone else who just threw their life away, I bring you to the end of the trial of 15-year-old Carly Madison Gregg. Like John Blauvett, Carly threw her life away. How so? Simple. She was convicted of killing her mother, convicted of attempting to kill her stepfather, and, just for a little added measure, tampering with evidence. So once again, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take myself out the shot. I'm gonna keep that copyright disclaimer up, mute mics, and I'm gonna try to get to the verdict and the sentencing as quick as humanly possible. So
I hope that seeing all the people who knew and loved Carly the best prior to March 19th, her friends, her maternal grandparents,
create a reasonable doubt as to the defendant's sanity, it is the burden of the state to present sufficient evidence to prove the defendant's sanity beyond a reasonable doubt. The court instructs the jury that the following is the definition of insanity in Mississippi. Insanity exists when at the time of committing the act, the accused was laboring under such defect of reason from disease of mind as 1, to not know the nature and quality of the act she was doing, or 2, if she did know the nature and quality of the act, she did not know that what she was doing was wrong. The court instructs the jury that if you find that the state has proved beyond a reasonable doubt all the essential elements of count 1, first-degree murder, count 2, attempted murder, and count 3, tampering with physical evidence, then you must find the defendant guilty of count 1, first-degree murder, count 2, attempted murder, and count 3. can sit right there, Bill. Ma'am, I see you're holding some papers. The jury been able to reach a verdict in any of these counts?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you would, please hand the paper to the bailiff. Ms. Gregg, please rise and come to the podium, along with your attorneys. All right, the verdicts appear to be in proper form. Verdict of the jury is count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Please be seated, Ms. Gregg. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury is custom for the court to poll the jury. I have to do it each time. And for each count, I'm not being rude. The quickest way for me to get through this is to just simply point at you and you answer out loud. As to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? You got to answer out loud, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Yes.
On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? That verdict is proper and unanimous. As to count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes,
sir. Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes.
On the back row, sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? As to count 3, we, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes,
sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? All right. All 3 verdicts appear to be unanimous. The court will enroll the verdict. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with you having returned a verdict of guilty in count 1 and count 2 of the indictment, we'll now proceed. We may call its first witness.
The previous testimony that the jurors have heard, with the exception of we seek to introduce one photograph.
All right. The state wishes to move.
I apologize for the lack of sound during the during the sentencing phase. There should be some sound coming in moments. But as you just heard, Carly Madison Gregg guilty on charges of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence. We're going to go back, get the sentencing right now.
All right, the verdict appears to be in proper form. Mr. Gregg, if you and your attorneys would come to the podium. The verdicts read as follows. As to count 1, we the jury sentence the defendant Carly Madison Gregg to life imprisonment. As to count 2, we the jury sentence the defendant Carly Madison Gregg to life imprisonment. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, just as I did with the verdicts of guilt, not trying to be rude. It's the quickest way we can get it done. As to count 1, we the jury sentence the defendant Carly Madison Gregg to life imprisonment. Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes,
sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? On the back row, sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
As to count 2, we the jury sentence the defendant Carly Madison Gregg to life imprisonment. On the front row, ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? On the back row, ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Sir, is that your verdict? And sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Verdict appears to be in proper form. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, please exit. I will be there in just a moment to release you. Okay? Everyone remain seated while the jury exits. Ms. Gregg, please come to the podium. Your sentences will be as follows. As to count 1, the jury having fixed the verdict at life imprisonment, this court will sentence you to life imprisonment. As to count 2, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment. As to count 3, you'll be sentenced to 10 years to serve. You'll be required to pay court cost fees and assessments in the amount of $431.50. Ms. Gregg, regarding any appeal of your judgment of conviction and order of sentence and in accordance with Wright v. State 577 Southern 2nd 387, the court wants to inform you that pursuant to Rule 4E of the Mississippi Rules of Appellate Procedure, the notice of appeal required by Rule 3 of such rules shall be filed with the circuit clerk within 30 days after the date of the denial of any motion for a new trial, or the day of imposition of sentence, whichever is later. Pursuant to Rule 4E, if you make a timely motion under the Mississippi Rules of Criminal Procedure for a judgment of acquittal notwithstanding the verdict of the jury or for a new trial under Rule 25.1, the time for appeal shall run from the entry of the order denying such motion. Finally, Rule 25.1 subsection C provides that a motion for a new trial must be made within 10 days of entry of the judgment, which includes both adjudication of guilt and sentence. Should you make a decision on the record to appeal, that decision will stand unless a written statement to the contrary signed by you and your attorney is filed with the court. Should you make a decision to waive appeal, that decision will stand unless you give written notice to the court and your attorney prior to expiration of the time in which you perfect an appeal. Should no decision to appeal be made by you, your failure to express a desire to appeal shall be considered a waiver of your right to appeal, and that waiver will stand unless you give written notice to the court and to your attorney prior to expiration of the time in which to perfect an appeal. Have you made a decision to appeal your conviction and sentence? All right. Court will be in recess.
Your Honor, let me have clarification. I apologize. On this.
Sentences will run concurrent.
And there's another one who threw her life away at just 15 years of age. 15. All for killing her mother and attempting to kill her stepfather. I said I was going to save this for the end. And for both John Tufton Blauvett and Carly Madison Gregg, I'm the kind of guy who likes to keep his promises. When the Reaper calls your name, there is no apologies. When the Reaper calls your names, there's no remorse. When the Reaper calls your name, it's just over. Blauvett, Carly, the hounds of hell are baying for your very souls. And the gates of hell are opening and welcoming you both to your eternal damnation. John Tufton Blauvett, Carly Madison Gregg, your names have been called. And when that guilt finally hits you, you two will never rest in peace. That's going to do it for me in this edition of Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I want to thank you guys so much. And if you want to get a hold of me, I'm on Facebook at Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I'm on X at EKB316, all caps. I'm here on Facebook at Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I'm on Instagram at EKB316, all lowercase. I'm on TikTok at King of Hearts 316 2021. And you can email me. The address is kingofhearts316_09 at outlook.com. Alright, this is all the reminder you need to remember where you were. This is your home for true crime news without all the drama, where your opinions matter, where lively debates are encouraged, your voice is heard, and above all else, justice is served. I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw. This is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, oh, wait. Okay, never mind, that's from earlier. Okay, let me try this again. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next time. Until we meet again, you all know what to do. Bite this.
Thanks for watching and joining me here at the drama-free true crime destination. Be sure to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment on this video. Also, be sure to follow Bethea'S Byte Reloaded all over social media. This is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded.